My child, stop scrolling for a moment. Something in you already knows this is not a random video that happened to appear tonight. You felt it the second you pressed play. A tug, a recognition, the sense that someone finally noticed what you have been carrying in silence. That someone is me. I have been waiting for this exact moment to speak to you directly. Not in a sermon, not in advice, but in a letter written for the one soul who needed it tonight. That soul is you. Treat this as a postcard sent across time, written before you ever opened it, addressed specifically to you. Not a general word for a general audience, but something I have been holding for the exact night your faith and your exhaustion finally collided. The way they have tonight. Set down what you were carrying when you clicked on this. For the next few minutes, just let me speak. The way you used to let me speak before life got loud enough to drown me out, before the noise convinced you that silence and absence were the same thing. You have done everything right, and you are still here. That is the sentence sitting underneath every other ache in your chest right now, isn't it? You stayed faithful when it would have been easier to walk away. You kept praying when the silence on the other end felt like rejection. You kept showing up, to church, to your Bible, to your knees beside your bed, even when nothing seemed to be happening in return. And somewhere in the middle of all that faithfulness, a question started forming that you have never once said out loud. Did I forget you? Are your prayers even reaching me? Did your obedience mean anything at all? Or did you simply spend years being good for nothing? I am answering that question tonight fully, honestly, without the soft religious language that usually avoids the real wound. I did not forget you. I have never once forgotten you. And no, your obedience was not wasted, not one day of it, not one tear, not one prayer prayed through clenched teeth when you wanted to give up on me the way it felt like I had given up on you. You have asked yourself, more than once, what is wrong with me? Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I stay exactly where I am? Why does staying close to God not seem to be working the way I was told it would? I am not offended by that question. I have heard it from faithful hearts since long before you were born, and I have never once punished anyone for asking it honestly. The question itself is not doubt. It is a child trying to understand a father, which is one of the most trusting things a person can do, even when it does not feel that way from the inside. There is a particular exhaustion that does not come from doing too little. It comes from doing everything right for too long with nothing visible to show for it. You are not tired because you stopped trying. You are tired because you never stopped trying, not once, not even on the nights it would have been easier to. You kept getting up even on mornings when getting up felt like the hardest obedience you had left in you. You kept showing up to a faith that, lately, has felt one-sided. That kind of tired is not weakness. It is evidence. It is proof of a faithfulness most people never test long enough to even understand. There is a specific kind of tired that only faithful people carry. The tired of doing the right thing and watching people who never even tried seem to receive everything first. You have watched someone who does not pray get the job you needed. You have watched someone who walked away from me receive the marriage, the healing, the breakthrough you have been asking for years. And some nights, the most honest prayer you have prayed was not even a request. It was a quiet, exhausted question. What is the point of staying faithful if this is what faithful gets you? I know what it costs to keep serving when the room feels empty inside, to keep singing words you do not fully feel, to keep giving when your own cup has been running on empty for longer than anyone around you realizes. That cost is not invisible to me. I have watched you give from a place that had almost nothing left to give from, and I want you to know that kind of giving means more to me than abundance ever could. It was never about how full your hands were. It was always about how faithful your heart stayed while they were empty. I want to be honest with you about something else too. There have been moments you almost stopped, almost let the exhaustion win, almost let the comparison convince you that none of this was worth it anymore. I was there in those moments more closely than in almost any other. Not to shame you for considering it, but to hold the door open a little longer until you found the strength to walk through it, instead of away from it. You did. Every single time, you did. That is not luck, that is grace, working quietly, exactly the way grace prefers to work. You have also learned what it feels like to be unseen by people, Not only by me, the friends who used to check on you stopped checking. The family who used to ask how you were doing now assume you are fine, because you have gotten so good at performing fine. You became the strong one, the steady one, the one everyone leans on, and somewhere in becoming that, no one thought to ask who holds you up. I did. I have been asking that question about you every single day, even on the days you forgot to ask it about yourself. Some of the loneliest moments you have lived were not even in seasons of unbelief. They were inside rooms full of believers where you finally admitted you were struggling, and someone told you to pray harder, as if your struggle were proof of a faith that was not enough. I was not in that response. I have never once measured your worth by how convincingly you can perform peace in front of other people. You are allowed to be tired in front of me. You are allowed to be tired and faithful at the same time. They are not opposites. I know the particular sting of being misunderstood by the very people who were supposed to understand you best. The ones who quote scripture at your pain instead of sitting in it with you. The ones who offer a verse where you actually needed a presence, a hand on your shoulder instead of a chapter and a verse. I am not asking you to forgive them tonight, if you are not ready. I am simply asking you to stop measuring my love for you by how well they showed mine. They are not me. They were never me. I have always been closer than their best intentions and their worst misunderstandings combined. If even one line of this has already reached the place you keep hidden from everyone else, do not scroll past it. Let it land. Type the words "I receive this" not for an algorithm, not for anyone watching, but as a small act of honesty between you and me, the first honest thing you have said about how tired you actually are in a long time. Here is the fear underneath the fear, the one you have never said out loud to anyone, maybe not even to yourself. You are afraid your prayers stopped reaching me. You are afraid that somewhere along the way you disqualified yourself, with a decision you regret, a year you wasted, a faith that felt too weak to count when it mattered most. You are afraid the breakthrough everyone else seems to be receiving was never going to come for you, that you are simply the one this does not happen for, child. I need you to hear this without flinching. None of that is true. Not one word of it. You have whispered the same request into the dark more times than you can count. The same name, the same situation, the same ache, wondering each time if this was the prayer that finally fell on deaf ears. You have looked at your own faith the way you would look at a phone with no signal, wondering if the message ever actually sent. I want you to know, every single one reached me, not the polished ones, not the ones with the right words. The broken ones too, the angry ones, the ones that were really just tears with no sentence attached, the ones you prayed without even kneeling because kneeling felt like more than you had left in you that day. I have never once required eloquence to listen closely, and the fear that you disqualified yourself, that one decision, one season of distance, 1 year you wandered, that it somehow moved you outside the reach of what I had planned. Hear me clearly on this. There is no version of your story I cannot still use. There is no chapter so far gone that it places you beyond what I am still willing to do. I have never once needed a perfect record from you. I have only ever needed a willing heart, and yours, even exhausted, even doubting, has remained willing this entire time, every time you came back instead of staying away. That willingness is what I see. That is what I have always seen. Your prayers did not stop reaching me. They never once stopped reaching me. I am not the kind of father who sets a limit on how many times you can ask before I stop listening. I am not keeping score of every time your faith wavered, every night you doubted, every moment you nearly walked away. I am not pacing heaven disappointed, waiting for you to finally earn what I already decided to give you before you were born. The delay you are living in was never punishment. It was never me being slow to love you. It was never me being unaware of how long you have held on. You do not have to perform for a love that was never transactional. You do not have to prove you are worthy of a relationship I started long before you knew to look for me. Every act of faithfulness you thought no one noticed. I noticed every time you chose to trust me instead of bitterness. I was recording it not in a ledger of obligation, but in the part of my heart that has never stopped being proud of you. You were never invisible to me, not for a single second. I know how many times you have wondered whether you are praying to someone who is actually paying attention, or simply speaking into a silence that has gotten very good at sounding like me. I am not that silence. The quiet you have felt was never absence. It was nearness so close it stopped feeling like presence, and started feeling like nothing at all, the way air feels like nothing until you notice you cannot breathe without it. I have been that close the entire time, closer than your next breath, closer than the doubt trying to convince you otherwise. Now let me speak to the comparison that has been quietly poisoning your peace, because I see exactly where your mind goes when you watch someone else move ahead while you stay in place. This was never a race. I am not measuring your life against theirs. What looks like delay from where you are standing looks like preparation from where I am standing. A seed buried in the ground does not see the root forming beneath the soil. It only feels the dark, the pressure, the silence of being buried instead of celebrated. But I see the root. I promise you it is growing, even tonight, even while you feel nothing happening at all. Their season was never your season. Their timeline was never written for your life. I am not slower with you because you matter less. I am not late because I have never once been late for anyone in the entire history of what I have made. What feels like me withholding is actually me finishing something in you that a faster yes would have left unfinished. The depth, the patience, the kind of faith that does not collapse the moment circumstances do not cooperate. That faith is being built in you right now, in the very silence you have hated the most. Faithfulness was never meant to be a sprint with an immediate finish line. It was always meant to be a long obedience, mile after unremarkable mile. Most of it lived far away from applause, far away from anyone watching closely enough to notice the cost. You have been walking that long road while feeling like the only one walking it. You are not. I have walked every faithful soul through a season that looked exactly like yours, unseen, unrewarded, unexplained, and I have never once let that season be the end of their story. If someone you love is carrying this same exhaustion in silence, the friend who always says they are fine, the one who has gone quiet lately for no obvious reason, send this to them tonight. You may be the only reason this message ever reaches the place they are hiding. I have used smaller obediences than that to change the entire direction of someone's life, and I am not above using one click from you to reach a heart that has been too proud or too tired to ask for help out loud. And now, because I love you, I have to say one more thing gently, the way a father pulls a child close before speaking a hard truth instead of shouting it from across the room. Some of what you have been carrying was never yours to carry. The bitterness toward the ones who seem to receive what you have been waiting years for. The resentment you have not said out loud, even in prayer, because it feels too ugly to admit you feel it. I am not rebuking you for that resentment. I understand exactly how you got there. I am simply asking you to set it down, the way you would finally set down a bag you have carried for miles. Not because someone shamed you into it, but because your arms are tired and mine are open. I also see the version of faith you have been practicing lately, the kind that prays and then quietly tries to control the outcome anyway, just in case I am too slow or too distracted to actually come through. I understand why you do that. Trust was broken in you somewhere along the way, by people, by disappointment, by promises that fell apart in your hands. But I am not those people. I have never once broken a promise I made to you, even when it took longer than you wanted, even when you could not yet see how I was keeping it the entire time. There is also a quieter correction I need to offer you, one aimed not at others, but at the way you have been treating yourself. You have judged your own exhaustion as a lack of faith. You have called your doubt a failure instead of what it actually is, a sign that you are still wrestling instead of walking away. I did not ask you to be unshakable. I asked you to stay close, even shaking, even unsure, even tired enough to question everything you once believed without hesitation. Stop punishing yourself for being human in a season that would have worn anyone down. I am not disappointed in your struggle. I am moved by the fact that you struggled and still chose me. Now hear who you actually are, because I know what this season has been whispering to you, and none of it was ever the final word. You are not the years that felt wasted. You are not the prayer that felt unanswered. You are not what the silence has been suggesting about your worth. You are not behind. There is no schedule in heaven where everyone else is ahead of you, and you alone are running late. no invisible clock you have somehow failed to keep up with. You are still my child. You are still chosen. You are still called even on the days you feel completely unqualified for your own life. Faithful was never the same word as forgotten. And I need you to let that truth replace the lie you have been quietly believing. Before anyone else defined you, I named you first. Before the disappointment, before the comparison, before the year that nearly broke your faith, I called you mine, and that name was never up for renegotiation based on your performance. It cannot be lost by struggling. It cannot be lost by doubting. It is who you are at the deepest level of your being. Underneath every label exhaustion has tried to press onto you. You have wondered whether faithfulness without visible reward still counts as faithfulness at all. It does. It always has. The version of you that kept believing without proof, kept obeying without applause, kept loving me without a guaranteed outcome, that version of you is not the weak one. That is the strongest faith I know, the kind that does not need to see in order to trust. And I have never once taken that lightly, not for a single day of your life. You wanted confirmation that you have not been imagining this connection between us. You have it now. You wanted comfort that did not feel like a script someone else wrote for a different kind of pain. You have it now, written specifically for yours, for the exact shape of what you have been carrying tonight. You wanted peace that does not depend on your circumstances finally lining up. I am giving you that peace tonight, not because everything is resolved, but because I am with you inside what is not resolved yet. And you wanted direction, some sense of which way to step next when everything has felt like standing still. Direction is coming. It is closer than you think, closer than the silence has made it feel. You have been asking me for a sign, something undeniable, something that would settle the question once and for all. I understand that longing completely, but hear this gently. You have already received more confirmation than you realize. The fact that you are still here, still listening, still letting these words past your defenses instead of numbing yourself completely, that is not nothing. That is faith, quietly working, even on the nights it does not feel like faith at all. The next sign you are asking for is coming, but do not miss the one you are standing in right now. There is a morning ahead where you will wake up and the weight will be lighter before you even understand why. There is a conversation coming where you will finally say what you have been too afraid to say, and it will not destroy you the way you feared. There is a room you will walk into one day, and the same fear that used to swallow you whole will have nothing left to grab onto. I am not promising a life without difficulty. I am promising my presence inside the difficulty, which is the thing you actually needed all along, even when you thought you needed the difficulty removed instead. Before you go, stay with me one more moment, because there is something I have been waiting to say, and I do not want you to miss it. It is not a new promise. It is the one underneath every promise I have ever made you, the one you have been searching for without knowing its name. Underneath everything else I have told you tonight is the one thing your heart has actually been asking for this entire time, even before you had words for it. You wanted to know that your faithfulness mattered to someone who actually saw the whole picture, not just the parts you let people see. You wanted to know the years that felt wasted were not wasted at all. You wanted more than anything to be loved without having to explain why you are still tired, still waiting, still here. My child, you have that. You have always had that. You simply needed someone to say it plainly without conditions attached. And tonight that someone is me. Receive this the way you would receive a hand reaching down to pull you up out of water that has been closing over your head for far too long. Go in peace, not because everything in your life is resolved, but because I am with you in what is still unresolved. Go carrying my nearness instead of your fear. Go knowing your faithfulness was never invisible, never wasted, never forgotten, no matter how convincing the silence felt. Go with strength for tomorrow, even though tonight may have felt like you had none left to give. Go with permission to rest, to hope again, to believe again, without shame for how long it took you to get here. I love you. I have always loved you before the waiting, before the comparison, before you ever knew to look for me in the first place. And I am not finished with you yet. Carry this with you into tomorrow morning, when the noise of your own life tries to convince you that tonight was just words on a screen. It was not. It was a father, finding his way to a faithful child, the same way I have always found my way to the ones who stayed when staying cost them something real. I have used burning bushes and quiet whispers and ordinary nights like this one. The method has never mattered to me nearly as much as the reaching. If this message met you exactly where you are tonight, let me know by typing "I receive this" below, so I can see your faith written out in front of you, a small but real act of trust between the two of us. If you want the next letter to find you the moment you need it, stay close, stay connected here, because I am still speaking into the places you thought were forgotten, and I am not finished writing to you yet. And if this ministry has been a comfort to you, and you ever feel led to support it, there will be a gentle way to do that below, offered freely, with no pressure attached, the same way everything I have given you tonight was given freely too. Rest now, my child. You came here carrying more than you said out loud, and you are leaving with something you did not have before you arrived. Carry it gently, the way you would carry something fragile and precious through a crowded room. Whenever the noise tries to convince you that tonight meant nothing, come back here. I will be saying the same thing then that I am saying now. You are seen. You are not forgotten. Your faithfulness counted every single time. You are mine. And if no one has told you this in far too long, let me be the one who finally does. I am proud of you, not for what you have accomplished, not for what you have produced, but simply for staying, for showing up to a relationship that asked something real of you and you gave it anyway. Again and again, on the days it would have been so much easier not to. That is not nothing. That has never been nothing. Sleep tonight knowing exactly how deeply seen you are, and wake tomorrow carrying it with you.